Pondremos en cuestión la idea de innovación, entendida como fuente de progreso lineal y ascendente, y abrevaremos de los saberes críticos emergidos de las relaciones entre arte, ciencia y tecnología, que se nos presentan hoy como un enorme repositorio de advertencias y de recursos en relación con la presente contingencia y las que sin duda nos encontraremos en el futuro cercano. Nos haremos preguntas como qué tipos de contingencias podemos imaginar o especular que sucederán en el futuro y cómo es que el arte en sus cruces con otros saberes ha imaginado o puede imaginar estas contingencias. ¿Qué podríamos hacer para mitigarlas? ¿Qué tipo de proyectos podríamos desarrollar para enfrentarlas? ¿Qué herramientas críticas deberíamos usar para decidir cuáles son y para llevarlos a cabo? ¿Qué formas de hibridez o hibridación entre el ámbito digital y el ámbito virtual, el espacio físico, imaginamos que pueden surgir a partir de las situaciones de confinamiento actuales? La charla del día de hoy, que inaugura el simposio, es una conversación entre el curador Rob La Frenais y el artista Tomás Saraceno. Rob La Frenais es un curador, escritor y conferencista independiente que ha experimentado desde 1987, trabajando con varios museos, galerías, instituciones académicas y publicaciones a nivel internacional. Como director de la Bienal Edge, produjo importantes exposiciones para las capitales europeas de la cultura en Glasgow, en Madrid, en Newcastle y en Clerkenwell, en Londres. Entre 1979 y 1987 fundó y editó la revista Performance Magazine. Fue miembro del grupo de artes experimentales Action Space, donde creó y produjo videoarte y performances para la Serpentine Gallery y para The Apple en Ámsterdam. Y el artista Tomás Saraceno, con quien Rob ha realizado varias colaboraciones muy interesantes, entre la que está Aerocene, una pieza que estrenaron en el desierto de White Sands en Nuevo México. Tomás Saraceno, la práctica de Tomás Saraceno se basa en conceptos que vinculan el arte, las ciencias de la vida y las ciencias sociales, en colaboración con las redes cósmicas, el aire, las telarañas y las comunidades indígenas. Las energías convergen en una nueva práctica de solidaridad. En nuestra era de emergencia climática, el trabajo de Saraceno visualiza relaciones éticas con los reinos terrestre, atmosférico y cósmico, profundizando nuestra comprensión de la justicia ambiental y la cohabitación entre especies llevada a cabo a través de los proyectos iniciados por el artista, sobre todo Aerocene y Aracnofilia. Pues sean bienvenidas, bienvenidos a esta conversación y a este simposio Prototipos para navegar un futuro contingente.
Hi. Rob La Frenais.
Yeah. So I think that the program in Yunnan is specifically about contingencies and this whole question of how artists can provide contingencies in unusual circumstances. Okay. And we're talking about, this situation after this massive crisis. But I want to take us back, right the way back to the Hayward Gallery when you were taking part in Psycho Buildings. And you invited me. And,
which year was that, Rob?
I think it was kind of back in the 2000s, but I can't remember the exact year. Psycho Buildings, you organized a conference, and we decided to think about this analog for space, for living on Mars. And we brought a medic who had overwintered in Antarctica, and the name has completely escaped me for the moment, Roger Malina, Graham Stevens, and a number of other people. And we thought about this idea of living in an analog, living on Mars. Can you talk a little bit about some of those ideas? Because if you remember, we had this idea where we would have a group of people who would be kind of floating on the water in a bubble. Do you remember this project?
Yeah. You are such a amazing. No, I'm so happy, Rob, to be here today. It's always inspiring and refreshing, and to think, back and forward and so on. Yeah, I remember, but I remember also part of the conversation was because you were doing something with Mars 500. You remember there was something that you were involved with this analog that, and I don't remember with ISA. Oh, who
it was
was
at the time of Mars 500 was happening in Russia at that time, and we were going to do.
Maybe you explain what is Mars 500 for the people who doesn't know it.
Yeah, Mars 500 was 500 days in an analog in Moscow, where a group of people were confined for 500 days to test how they might live in Mars. Okay, so that was kind of inspiring to the project we were talking about at the Hayward Gallery at that time. And the idea was that you had was that.
But I think this is amazing, Rob. If you just, if I just stop at that time and you say, people confined in an environment for 500 days, and now we are in the midst of in the middle of a pandemic crisis, right? On a something that it seems that that thing that somehow maybe we were thinking about it is analog of being confined or being in lockdown. It's so present today, right? It's something which I don't know. We are again now in Berlin. I think so. Is the city in Berlin in Germany with the highest case. We are at 72 in 100,000. Italy is have a resurgence and so on and so forth. This means what maybe. Yeah, we will try to remember what we were thinking at that time, but somehow I feel that we are getting somehow confined in some moment. And one of the concepts which I thought also it could interesting to think is like this concept of zoonosis, no? Where we can kind of read it just in case we don't get it right, no? But it's again, these zoonoses, in plural zoonosis or zoonotic disease, are infection disease caused by a pathogen, an infection agent such as a bacterium, virus, parasite, or that has jumped from a non-human animal, usually a vertebrate, to a human. Now, just read that. Now, I think so that this means when we think about a lockdown and the inability to move, is because I think so we have moved too much previously, or some human have moved too much. This means have depleted the Amazons and the forest and the trees, and we are in a way that in the way that we have been moving, the way we have been connected, the way how the space agencies are thinking to steal, while we are having a whole discourse of decolonization, still the space agencies think about colonizing Mars, Moon, and so on and so forth. This means there is a huge discrepancy on how we can think that things, and who have the capacity to move and who do not have the capacity to move, right? Or how we have been moving to the wilderness, let's say, to a certain environment with such a violence that somehow now the consequence of the few who have been also thinking that space could be colonized as we have colonized America or other places or forest or places where the rights of the animals and the rights of the indigenous people who live in that environments have been completely displaced, and somehow today, due to that hegemony, due to that program, somehow also the majority of people on planet confine themselves to inability to move. This means I'm thinking this idea of
Thomas, you changed your approach to this. I mean, you used to fly around a lot. I remember that you were in the conference we did at Westminster, and you actually did your lecture from the plane. So have you changed your approach to this moving around the planet?
I think so. Let's put it away. And I had been at NASA in 2009. And look, I can tell you even like a more tragic thing. There was now a statistic that it says that every time that you cross the Atlantic, let's say I do Berlin, North America, somebody else around the world will live for 2 years short time. You know, you diminish the lifespan, the possibility of somebody else in another planet that you will live 2 years shorter, right?
Yeah.
Does it mean?
So you have rethought your personal approach to traveling and to flying. Yes?
I think so. I think so. Was always there, Rob. I think so. Was always there in you, and was always there in many of us, right? Was always. I think so. I feel like you are part of a community which, since ever, have tried to change the approach of space. Since ever have thought, who have the privilege to go to space. I remember you organizing in Norwich, how the ISS, the International Space Station, could be start to open to artists, to different ideas. And I think so. Together we have, we have really, hopefully, and we continue shaping a future which is different than the future we are living today. And I think so. It's not that we have changed. I think so. We always have been in the other side, and we always have been trying to make a difference on that, as we then demonstrated, I think, so in the White Sand. And yes, of course, we went to White Sand on this military space with a plane, but I think so the commitment to think about different futures has always been there. And you are one of the great, for me.
Well, I do say that I think it's exactly a year since I was last in an aeroplane. I gave up flying for 1 year now, exactly nearly round about this date. I think the flight I took was October last year, and that was it. Then it's train.
Yes. What I'm doing, Rob, now is I'm trying to rethink. I mean, you know, I always think about how the dream of flight have become a nightmare today, because it's from a dream to a nightmare. It's because it's really a nightmare.
Yeah. Like, can we talk about White Sands now? Because
just to go back about you know, the possibility of something thinking has been, now I'm looking about you know, a little bit being more precise in the tracking of fossil fuel emission that I emit, that the studio emit at large, that my galleries, that the artwork, you know, and we are all trying to work together.
You're on the case, yeah.
To try to review all that practice. Now, in relation with the carbon emission, I think so. We are many of the people that have been traveling so much before are doing so much great with the pandemic. Does it mean we can? There is a kind of a small statistic. I encourage everybody to look very precisely, but basically to be within a kind of a certain European standard or world standard on how much CO2 I can release by flying by airplane. Usually allow me every year to go 1 time across the Atlantic and 5 European flights. And with that, more or less, you know, it's some. And I mean, I'm trying to set up all the agenda 21, 22 to saying, well, I will travel 1 time across Atlantic and then 5 European flights, and then try to really fit within kind of a.
So you said yourself a target.
Exactly.
In White Sands, we did this thing called Aerosolar, where you broke the record for the first human solar flight, and we also had a conference called Space Without Rockets.
Yeah.
So, Space Without Rockets was a really radical thought by John Powell that you introduced us to, that we could actually go into space with balloons.
Yeah.
Do you think we can apply that kind of thinking to the way we travel around the planet? In other words, replacing planes with airships or other kinds of technologies for moving around the planet?
Yeah. This means it's very dangerous because people, you know, is what exactly them. And sometimes the difference is very little, but we say, I have not been flying, or let's stop flying. It's like that there will be only one way of flying, which is ridiculous, right? And this is what you are bringing up, because it seems like you know, it's like before there was only like, you know, let's not use anymore certain tech. It's like the only way to get to space, the only way to fly is by burning, basically, what we are trying to.
I think you are introducing a really radical concept here in Aerosolar. I think as an artist, you're really innovating and trying to change a large-scale mindset.
Yeah.
I think was being, and also with the Aerocene project and the backpacks and this whole idea that flight can be redefined.
Yeah.
I think as an artist, you have done that. You have started the process towards that big change in mindsets with Aerocene.
Yeah. Well, I want to say is like I did not really start by my own. There have been a few other pioneers, which one of them was Graham Stephen, that we invited him to the Hayward Gallery, that he was doing a lot of, another is Dominique Michaelis, you know, Buckminster Fuller. There was always a latent community of very few, let's put that way, curious people who think that things could be different. And what I am is like I think so with all these people and with all the community, all these families try to, you know, to move forward that dream, you know, that or that intention that things could be quite different. Now, not to get lost with the people, and this is pre-recorded, I think so. What we could do, I don't know if we want to watch ourselves, because I thought that maybe now we could watch a little bit what we did in White Sand, right?
Oh, that would be great. I just wanted to say, you mentioned Dominic Michaelis. That of course, the first time we met was when you did Poetic Cosmos of the Breath.
Absolutely.
At dawn, just outside the M25 in London, and you recreated that project.
Exactly.
We had to postpone it because of the bad weather, but then we finally did it, and it was a magical moment. And
Absolutely.
when as part of researching this, you went to visit Dominic.
Yeah. And he was one of the really early on pioneers, friend of Buckminster Fuller, friends of Iota, friend of many people who somehow they were really kind of trying to advance of this project, right? This idea that we could do differently, and also and this means that was always beautiful. This idea of link, you know, the practice to some of these people, of these fantastic human beings. Now, I don't know if we want to watch the video, because otherwise it becomes...
Why don't you play a small part, but also speak, so that we can hear something about the context? So are you ready to share the screen for that?
I think, are you ready? But I think so. Look, what we could do is I will launch it. And then let's say there. I mean, I will stop here, and I will ask you, Rob, that you tell us a little bit where we are, because I think so. We were together there, and then we keep rolling.
Yeah, well, just to say that we're actually at dawn on a military base. White Sands Missile Range is where they test missiles, and are still testing missiles. And we had hoped to do this project in the part of White Sands that is better known by the tourists, the national park, or the beautiful dunes and where people go to camp. And we could not get permission to go there, largely because a French couple had died there a week before from the heat, and also because there'd been some controversy about people using drones. So amazingly, we met a general, and he said, yes, you can come and do your project in the military part of this. So it was really complex, because we had to get passports. We had a number of Mexican citizens helping us with this, because of part of this project, which was at the Rubin Center at the University of Texas at El Paso. It was part of a larger exhibition that involved a number of artists from all over the world, including Mexico. And we brought all those artists out to the site, to this military site at like 4 a.m. in the morning. And we had to get them all cleared by the military. We had to get copies of everybody's passports, and then we had to go in convoy to this place. So Thomas, would you like to take over now?
Yeah, no, and was it's a beautiful, the landscape is terrific. It's really, really amazing. And I still remember Rob saying how complicated it was to, we will be able to enter that space, no? And then, in the context again, I think so Rob has mentioned before what you know, is a place where also nearby and they launch and test a lot of rockets, right? And this mean and the conference and the symposium and some of the ideas was we were working with this idea of the space without rockets.
We had this conference called Space Without Rockets.
Exactly. And this mean, and what is space, and then you know, and how we could rethink about that.
People who were involved with Biosphere 2 for that conference, and also John Powell, who's trying to get into space with balloons.
Yeah.
And I should also say that this whole project
I put a bit lower the volume.
Co-curated by the director of the Rubin Center, Kerry Doyle.
Yeah. Okay. And but basically also what we are seeing is something very simple. I don't know if you noticed at the beginning, but it's just kind of an envelope that, and then we are here filling it in with just regular air, right? And this means what it happened is kind of get inflated. The sculptures, there is a part which is transparent, and there is a part which is black. And what it happened when the sun heats up the air, which is in its interior, it rises, right? And it's something extremely simple, but somehow it seems quite complicated when we run on the fossil fuel addiction that we are having today. I kind of remember quite fantastic when I was at NASA, you know what I mean, in San Francisco, in NASA Ames, that, you know, people who have been many times in the ISS, International Space Station, you know, you could elevate a person into the air with something that can be built in a weekend with 2 hands over 24 hours, right? And this means kind of following that road, you know, then we you know, we have built several prototypes. I have been flying a few times, always tethered with a rope, and what we will be seeing also was tethered with a rope, and what allow is to people to fly maybe without fossil fuel. Let me see if we get it to well, this is a beautiful landscape of the white sands.
There's a specific thing about white sands, isn't there, Thomas, which is that it's very cold at night, and then it's sudden, as the sun comes up, the temperature changes really fast. And I think that was connected to the way we inflated the large solar balloon.
Yeah. The lift is much greater because if you know, you fly much better in winter than in summer, and you fly much better early in the morning than you midday, because the differential of temperature that you can gain between inside and outside is much greater during the early morning, when the air the surrounded air have not been heated by the sun, and then you have less thermics also. It's been usually when you fly with a regular balloon also, it happens early in the morning or late into the afternoon. But in the afternoons for us is more difficult because you gain less differential of temperature. And
in the picture, my former colleague Nicola Triscott, who I worked with for many years at the Arts Catalyst, and I was luckily able to invite her out to come and take part in this because she was based in Washington at the time. So it was great to have Nicola from the Arts Catalyst there. This is one of the first projects I did after I left the Arts Catalyst, and so it was really nice to have that continuity. And she also flew the balloon.
Yeah, it was amazing. I think so. But okay, if we stop here, Tack, 1 second. Okay, and the big difference here is like a regular, let's say, balloon. We are thinking that this sculpture will have a burner. You will heat up the air with a burner, with propane gas. Usually, is the gas most that you use when you cook something at home, if you don't have an electric heater. Now, and you see that there is nothing there, and this means our burner, let's say, is the sun. That's the one we should let it burn. But maybe some of the resources we are having today on Earth, we are abusing on that use. Has been, you see here is all the time is connected to the rope.
Yeah, and what I really like about this is that it's kind of a communal effort. So we had about 20 people, all the other artists were holding onto the rope. And we had some professional balloonists with us. And one of the things they told us was that whatever you do, you don't tie the rope to yourself because you get taken up into the air. And it's the obvious thing, but we had to be told that. Don't tie the rope to yourself. Always hold the rope in your hand.
Don't put the rope around your arms and things like that, because it could if you get these gust winds, that where it get a little bit dangerous. Now, one small particularity, the way that you operate these is like you have these side vents, you see on the left.
So that's for emergencies if you need to come down fast, yeah? There's a little string you pull. If you're up there and you need to get down, you pull the string.
Yeah. Exactly. And this means the way that you control the altitude. This means you will go up. If it's closed, when you pull and then it opens a little bit, and then the hot air, it goes out, and then you come down. Very gently, very gently.
This is the first time this has ever been done, and it's a tethered flight, which we do because it's a military area, and we probably would have got shot down if we tried to do it untethered. But have you managed to do this untethered now, Thomas?
Yeah, something happened that the video disappeared. But let me go back to. But yes, we were. Let me see if I find some of the images. Let me see here. Sorry, this is. I'm trying to think. There we are. This here is. I show some part of the video, but this we were working in Jujuy in Argentina, which also it required a little bit of an introduction. Let me see, because this is a place where that's a great image, where a lot of people. Indigenous community, there are 33 communities living at the borders of the Salt Lake, right? And where they are really being affected by multinational company and basically by the addiction of everybody to use mobile phone or electric cars and so forth. So now what is happening is that they are really very, very strongly resisting the way of how companies are signing contracts and the way how this lithium is being extracted. Just for people who do not know, 1 ton of lithium, it requires 2 million liters of water to be extracted. It's kind of a process that you mix the lithium and with water, and then you let the water evaporate, and you have to do it 1, 2, 3 times, many times. And in this way, you use a lot of water. Now, this region, in this area, and we are talking about Bolivia, Chile, and Argentina, is the place where they said up to 80% of all the resources of lithium in the world are in these salt lakes. Now, the way that we really extracting, it doesn't seem sustainable for the people who live around the area. This means when we arrived there, we said like, well, we would like to think that we could fly or we could elevate ourselves and then without the needs of solar panels, without the needs of batteries. Let's say, let's not forget about Picard and many others who think that we could do, that I'm proposing other things. And it was very beautiful to work with the community there. And then what we did at the end is kind of we can watch it.
It really looks fascinating.
Yeah. Across the planet account for less than 5% of the global population, and still they protect 80% of its biodiversity. Their everyday environmental struggle formed the theory and praxis of fighting against the degradation and loss of life on this planet. Several years of visiting Jujuy and conversation with the communities, I knew this was the right location for the most revolutionary flight in history.
So we can see the portable aerocenes here, Thomas.
Sorry?
These are the people's aerocenes. These are the aerocenes that anybody can use or anyone can take. I think nice to know a little bit about that project, because it's
absolutely. I mean, the idea is really like to kind of and I know maybe the video will be seen by students or by people who and this mean we really encourage, you know, we have a group that we aggregate around about this idea of the Aerocene, or try kind of get inspired beyond the Anthropocene and try to think about what it means to think about the belonging to the air, right? And how much the air today is.
This is like DIY backpack technology, basically. Well, my friend Ewan, we worked.
Yeah, I have one here. Wait a minute.
Doing it. Yeah, you are great, excellent. They're great because basically anybody can fly.
We have now the camera recognizes only me or the backpack.
Yeah.
But this is a backpack that inside, if you open, you got you see, is a oh now you see I cannot manage to tell the camera that what's going on. But here is inside is one of these huge inflatable sculptures where they're filled with air, and then kind of when they're hit with the sun, they have a negative weight. You know, it's a sculpture that depending of its temperature is able to levitate, because Rob, I have beautiful video of people levitating magic carpets. And this means when people ask me, oh, how much is the weight of this sculpture, because we were thinking about transportation and mobilities and stuff like that. And I said, well, this is a sculpture who can self-transport itself, because when it gets hit by the sun, actually it can carry. And this, I mean, you know, is this idea of also.
I mean, to me, this is a similar thing to what Oliver Ellison has done with his solar lamps. And this, what you're doing is you're distributing the technology of your art so that it becomes a people's version of what you're doing. So it's not just exclusive for them or for the museums or galleries, it's for the people in the street.
Yeah. And I think I'm a great friend of all of you, and he's great. And the other day we talked on the phone and said, Tomas, you know, it's so beautiful how much is one thing that I think so we are really keen is on being open source information, right? Does it mean, and that's a little bit, maybe a tiny different with a solar lamp, because it's something, first it's very simple to be built. And this means what you could go to the Aerocene webpage, and we really allocate a lot of time into the capacity of people to build themselves a sculpture. It's not about you can use it, but also you can build it yourself, right?
You also had the project Museo Aerosolar, which is something that can be done in different cities where people, a large number of people put together plastic waste and build hot air balloons around the world. But yeah, can we see the rest of the film now? Sorry, Thomas, because I would really want to see that.
I'm thinking about I mean, look, this is kind of very. Wait a minute. I play a little bit just because it's the plastic bag, what we said before. No. The dream started over 20 years ago with a single plastic bag in front of me. Then I thought, what if I could fly with my feet on the ground, conscious of the pollution this planet suffers? What if we imagine a different way to drift and generate a movement that can slow us down as fast as possible? What if not only 2 million people that inhabit the sky with airplanes could move differently today? What if a museum could become a flying museum, an alternative reality? And indeed, in 2007, with a community of people all over the world, we began to collect used plastic bags. We cut them, we wash them, we glue them together, and we began to draw on them, creating a huge canvas. What was collectively created was a collective of drawings, of personal stories, and of friendships. And when you join them, bend them, and fold them, you create a space filled with air. Now, when the sun comes up from the horizon, the museum too rises up into the sky. This is our Museo Solar, a testimony of the Aerocene. Yeah, that's a little bit how it started, but anyway, I don't know if now to go back to the other, because that's interesting also when we think about, CNES and few others, maybe space agencies, which, and just actually is only one who have thought also on the capacity to fly during the night, because I ran this just only to remember a little bit. An area sculpture. There you see.
Flight in Argentina, Thomas. I wanted to see it because I haven't seen it.
Anyway, we could get there, because from there also with John Powell we maybe also get to space, but first is maybe to fly at night also, or to repeat that. But just then I connect again to that flight, which I think was quite beautiful.
Yeah.
Because the difference with Rob, when we did in the white sand, we were quite afraid of cutting the rope, right? Because you need then to control quite good, right? I mean, just as a background information now, because after so many years, I feel confident to say, but as one of the great pioneers, I think so, that sometimes we risk a bit too much. But I have fall from a balloon made of plastic bags, and I break my back, and I break two vertebrae, and still I have two long pieces of metal rods in my back, and many screws. What is very important is to do it safely. This means if any student in here, please make sure that I know at young age you want to do all what you can, but do it safely. And this means the difference a little bit when what we then start to work when we did with Rob, that all the vehicles, all what we are doing have a level of safety that is quite high. And this means, and then we did step by step, right? The first one was in white sand. Okay, let's elevate a person with a prototype which is very safe, that all the control, all the maneuvers. Let's make, and then we did many flights, feather, until then we feel confident to really cut the umbilical cord, which and let it free. And then here we will see a little bit what Leticia Marquez is the only female pilot in all Argentina who really took the challenge and was, let's say, brave and confident enough to say, I'm going to try without any rope or connection. Let's have a look. Several years of visiting to break borders. With this, in general, we flew not a single sound other than the wind. We flew with no explosion, no emission, not a single sound other than the wind. We felt as gravity had been inverted. It wasn't pulling towards the center of the earth, but towards the universe. But more than that, when Leticia Marquez, the only licensed female pilot in all Argentina, rose up above us, our dream of flying became real. Without burners, without fossil fuel, without helium, and without solar panels. That was crazy, Rob.
Amazing.
It is a message to all humanity about the possibility of thinking of a social alternative that do not attack the very fabric of life. Our Fly with Pacha was carrying the powerful claim of the local indigenous community. Water and life are worth more than lithium. This moment gave powerful visibility to a new era in which the air became inhabitable, breathable, vital to human life. What we achieved is historic. Our Pacha flag. This is, let me tell you now, Rob, because it's kind of funny. There is one, look, exactly here. There is one agency which is called Federación Aeronautique Internacional. And this means we were claiming, because I mean, it's quite complicated to make a official world record. And this agency is, you need to have a registered professional pilot. I could not fly myself, right? I'm into the, you know, I need 16 hours of flying a balloon, and I'm in the middle of a course. I got 8 hours more or less. This means it should be then you have to have to be 2 observers from the federation to be on site. You have to have GPS tracker. You have to have altimeter. You have to have, you know, it's like the time that it took us then when we did the record to be accepted by the federation. It is almost you know, it took us almost a year, right? Now, what we were claiming was 3 records: altitude, distance, and time. For general category, this mean, and female category. This is how they divide it so far. And this means we will be 6 records. Now they said, well, with the altitude, we got a trouble because there is a kind of a problem within the law of the federation of how this is measured. And they said, well, but mostly we will claim 4 then. Now they give us 32. The thing is, like, this means we got 32 world records because we did not break record. We established a new record in human history of aviation. This means go back from the brother Montgolfier. Let me play that part because it's quite beautiful. Then people understand a little bit and it says maybe here. There we go. 1 second. When the Montgolfier brothers hot air balloon lifted a human into the air for the first time in 1783, they used fire to lift into the sky. When the Wright brothers flew for the first time an airplane, they used gasoline engines to power the propellers. And Bernard Picard, with a solar impulse, used solar panel to charge lithium batteries. When the Apollo 11 rockets flew to the moon, it burned kerosene in one of the most dramatic displays of fossil fuel the world has ever seen. But this last flight, 50 years ago, marked not only the moon landing, but it represents an era of flying, an era of human civilization based on patriarchal, nationalistic, and colonial ambitions that have depleted the world. The air suffers from our dream of flying, which turned into our life. He just to go back to space and back and forth. I mean, we hope so. No, that
Thomas, I want to bring some of my other questions in because we have about 10 to 15 minutes left.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, the green renewal after COVID, after the crisis, when we hopefully have a vaccine, we have to change everything. Things have to change. What is your proposal for where we go next?
No, I think so. What was nice, Rob, is the, I mean, or what at least we experience, you know, that technology cannot be decoupled from the social reality that we
already discovered that when you did the conference with Bruno Latour, the Anthropocene Monument, where we were marking the start of the Anthropocene and possibly the end of the Anthropocene. And we were thinking of this geology of human habitation on the Earth. Do you think we would have had that Anthropocene monument discussion in the same way if we'd known that a pandemic like this was going to hit the Earth?
I think so, you know, Bruno, and I think so, you know, I mean, the problem is that there is a huge inequality today in the world, right? And I think so, of course, the urgency of discuss certain topics is for some people, it became even more present and more present. But I think so, what is also quite alarming is that for some other people, it became less present even, right? Let's say at that time, you know, I don't think so there was what is happening today in North America, what is happening today still with the fake news, what is happening today with
or whether potentially there's going to be a military coup or some kind of thing happening in the US. I can see either democracy or fascism, but one or the other is going to happen there.
But also, like, what is quite amazing still, you know, for me, when we went to Argentina and Jujuy with all this salt flake, that still society think that there could be an energy transition without a cost to part of the population, or without a cost of. And I mean, we still believe in this naive idea that a certain technology will make us move to a different paradigm, without understanding the social consequence that these have if we don't do it. This means we keep going, like as we were extracting certain resources, we go to the idea of lithium, and we go to a certain place where lithium is, and we keep extracting with the same, you know, ideas that we have been extracting all before, and since nothing have changed. And I mean, you know, it's quite complicated. When we talk about data, we are not only about thinking about extraction of minerals, but the data mining that certain multinational, certain companies are extracting from human beings and gathering that, you know, and they're mining us, you know what I mean? The same mine minerals. Today, few people are exploding, and then many are suffering the consequence of the few, the 1%, the 20, the 30%, whatever you call it. But we have to be very careful when we think about Anthropocene. You know, we have to call it a capital scene. There is a life form, there is a lifestyle, and when we have to be very careful, we have to change the lifestyle of some humans and not the climate. But the people living in Argentina, as we said before in the video, 5% of the population of the world is represented by indigenous communities, which have a very holistic and different relation with the planet Earth. And they preserve 80% of the biodiversity on planet Earth, 5%. While the 1%, the majority of biodiversity by promoting a lifestyle which is unsustainable.
Yeah. And of course, the other thing that your work brings in is our relationship to other species. You also talk, I mean, you're working a lot with spiders, but you're also talking about the sixth mass extinction.
Yeah.
With phosphate and pesticides, loss of
habitat. Yeah, absolutely. And then there's always, again, this idea, you know, I mean, we can talk at you know, it's kind of remaking this human project, you know, this idea of what humans are, and because when you look at how governments and how people treat the people living in this indigenous community there, they do not look, we treat them as inhuman, right? And so when we think about humanity in relationship with a social life, that it is like a Boaventura will say, this is abyssal lines, you know. There are this very much kind of differentiation of how we relate one to each other. Now, when you think also like, I work with spiders, and that's way also we have to kind of reposition ourselves in relationship. I think so spider work with me, you know, and then also, you know, what a human today is, and, you know, what are the multitude that my body contains. But in that case also, you know, spiders have been on the planet since 280 million years.
Really?
Spiders. Now humans, as the Homo sapiens, are the latest form we have seen, or I don't remember human or Homo sapiens, which exactly category, have been also on the planet only 310,000 years. 310,000, not, it's a third of a million years. This means when I think like I work with spiders, I think so down the road. And then, you know, it's also, there is a nice analogy also when they said, usually an organism or a species need to be able to survive on this planet minimum 2 million years to learn to have learned to live in this planet. This means human, as the stage we know them, they are even 1/3 of a million, 310,000 years. And this means, I think so, we should be more humble and think like spiders are working with me, right? I think so. They know how to live on this planet for much longer, and somehow I have everything to learn, right?
You talked about the 1% earlier on, Thomas. I remember that they did, the 1% invited you to the campfire, Jeff Bezos's campfire. What would you say to the 1% now? I mean, the 1% were presumably, or Bezos or the Amazon guy was interested in getting a major artist like yourself to the campfire. But if you were facing somebody from the 1% now, what would you say to them?
But I think so, it's like sometimes is, I think so what we need to do is, there are different ways of how we could change, like attitude. I think so, I will keep accepting, going there and try to, the attitude, when and this project, I have to say, when we were in Jujuy in Argentina, was funded by BTS, this huge K-pop band from South Korea, right? And what was very beautiful there, we're kind of a part of a people who were there from family, friends, collector, galleries. Then there were the indigenous community writing their huge message on the sculpture.
Great to see the message on the balloon. That was really radical too.
That's beautiful, right? It's like, and when we were there, they were so suspicious about our intention. I say, look, we can write it over there, because there was CNN, was BBC, there was a whole TV channel covering, and then they would always say like, but then you will edit the material and our message will not be heard. And they became almost the major protagonists of that thing. And then there was all the BTS fans, they were all dancing, and then, what I mean? This was affluence of a different cultures, attitude, elevating sometimes a message that in a way of showing that even when we think that it's very difficult to do something together, we managed to do something together which was very encouraging. And this I think so, we could be as aggressive as we can, also to make sure that part of these 1% areas, but at the same time, show them that there might be alternative, that we could work together differently and inspire them. You know what I mean? Sometimes when you are very, very aggressive to somebody, they close their door and say, oh, you know what I mean? I think so we need to, and I think so art is a way that I think so hopefully will help to articulate possibilities of inclusion, of working together, that maybe no other industry, no other company, no other ways.
It's a really tough thing to do, to persuade those people that there are more important things than holding on to their money. And you obviously, have come up with some ways of doing that, and it's.
And then there is more important things than money, Rob. You know what I mean? We should really change the value system of what we think is valuable today, right? And it is really like it is a shift. But it's very dangerous for the people who have which are in extreme poverty. It's very difficult to say that there is no value in money. Also, this we have to be very. It's only the few privileged who can talk in that way. I think so. We need to find ways of really kind of, and I think so, as you have been doing as your career as a curator for so many years, bridge ideas. Bridge the space agency that also, in that case, it's like for me, was quite taking, Rob, when we were at the military side with the enemy, right? But we decided to knock the door, right? We say like, oh, that's maybe is even more interesting, that these guys see an alternative of how we can get to space without a rocket and without burning fossil fuel. And I remember all the military guys saying, that's not possible. I mean, what are these fake hippies doing here? But I think so, and we did it right in their face. And I think so that thing is even more important than to do it in a museum where we are in contact with the same community, with the same people, and we know the rhetoric that we have one to each other. This idea of bridging, right? That you're saying, we will do it right there. Where's the problem was? Or maybe it started, or it's still being so present. Or when we go to the Salt Lake and we decide to, you know what I mean? It's this idea, I think so, and you have done it so often how it's called, Art Catalyst with our friend,
the Arts Catalyst.
Nicola, and you know, I mean, I think so. Rob is, I think that's a really inspiring, and I've been always inspired.
Well, Thomas, it was so great to see you working in Argentina and linking the first untethered flight with the campaign of the indigenous people, and allowing the way in which that political message could get across with a technological innovation.
Beautiful.
Showing that you can fly without burning anything, and at the same time getting a message across about extraction. To me, I'm very impressed by that project. So.
Oh, beautiful. It was really touching, you know, and still now with the pandemic, you know, it's like you learn, and the way how they live is, I don't know, you know, it was really, really a beautiful experience, you know what I mean? And I think so slowly we are getting more and more with the, you know, with the plays, you know what I mean, with the reality, and with, you know, with really kind of conveying this message and these realities. And
well, I think it's great that this conversation is going to be transmitted at a conference in Mexico City, which is a very appropriate place for it. So I'd like to thank you very much, Thomas, for your wonderful and enthusiastic contributions today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you, everybody. It was wonderful. And do not. The thing is, like, whenever students or whatever, reach out, Rob, reach out, myself, the Aerocene community, and let's make it happen. You know what I mean? I
think there are going to be a number of undergraduates here as well, so the younger generation hopefully are going to.
We have a forum and we can discuss, and I think so. Let's do together the next flight, Rob. We are now thinking that to make one which is a little bit bigger, that 3 passengers can take off. That's the next. This was 3,000 cubic meter. The next one is 15,000 cubic meter. I mean, hopefully, we will really.
Well, I hope I'll be able to get a train or ride my bike or get to wherever you're going to do it.
Wonderful. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.